What's going on, everybody? Al High here, host of the Casual Highlight. It has been a while since I've gotten on the talk. Been doing a lot of traveling. Been very busy summer, but I want to start a series of stories that I've been wanting to talk about since July. That I have some things that I want to bring to the table of conversation because they're still pretty relevant. So this is again the Casual Highlight with Al High, where we educate, inform, and inspire while having a casual conversation about sports. And the first topic that I want to deal with on today, we got to talk about this OU Texas leaving the Big 12. Now, come on now, it was a matter of time before Texas and OU was going to leave the Big 12. Big 12 was being hung, let me not say hung. The Big 12 was holding on by was being held together, patched together with duct tape and paper clips because they wasn't going to be much longer before somebody was going to leave. The only reason why the Big 12 stuck together is because of the Longhorn Network. That long 10 or 15 year deal, $300 million, and that network is boo boo and garbage. But I can understand that because the majority of your Big 12 audience is in the state of Texas. So I totally get why that deal was done. But it really didn't benefit much of the Big 12 as a whole. Now, am I sad to see this league dissolve? Yes, I am, because I grew up in the Midwest. I remember the days of the Big Eight, the KU, the K State, the Missouri, the Nebraska, the Colorado, the Oklahoma schools, the Iowa State of the world. I grew up watching these matches. I grew up watching Big Eight football, Big Eight basketball, and then it merged to Big 12. And my concern was that there was no concern now is that there's no really Midwest representation of a major conference. So am I sad that the Big 12 is going to probably dissolve? Yeah, I'm a little sad. But I want to see, maybe could they grab a couple of AAC schools? Yeah, they need to. Um, we'll just see. We'll see what happens. But I am going to give one recommendation as we speak right now. Why don't AJ Jones, host of the Lunch Break, he made a comment about the ACC schools grabbing some of these HBCU schools. I would give that. Deion Sanders came out and did a tweet about Jackson State joining the Big 12. I would say, yeah, go ahead and grab a couple of these schools that are in these HBCUs. My recommendation is go ahead and grab Tennessee State and Hampton. Um, Tennessee State, if I believe, is in the Ohio Valley Conference, and Hampton, I think, is in the Big South Conference. And since geography doesn't really matter much anymore for conferences, why not ask them to come to be involved, to come into this realignment, to add this new vibe of the Big 12? Why not? Let's go ahead and give it a shot. For Hampton, you already got West Virginia out there. There is your traveling partner right there if you're worried about travel back and forth. Where as a school like let's say Baylor go on the road, where you can go to Westford, you can go to Morgantown, you can go and then you go to Hampton and play the following week for like basketball purposes. Football, you know, maybe if you got two road games back to back, but that would be a good scenario to happen. So I would like to see maybe look at some of these HBCUs to join the Big 12 conference. Also, maybe grab one or two American Conference teams. Uh, let's go ahead and give shucks. Definitely need to give Houston a phone call. Need to give them. You need to give them a phone call because they have a good football program. You might even consider. Now this might be a reach. Maybe give Tulsa a courtesy call. But I know that all the these moves when anytime of realignment, it's really about football. So the other Texas school that you might consider looking at, how about give SMU a phone call, right in the Dallas, Texas area. How about even give Cincinnati a phone call as well? These are some people who need to get a phone call. But two other schools that you probably need to get along, in my opinion, go ahead and call Boise State and BYU. If you get one of them, and if you get both, now you're cooking with some good chicken grease now, fresh chicken grease, and a fresh perspective. So you got to get one of those particular schools to join the Big 12. But give those schools a call. But check out it is Tennessee State. Check out a Hampton, and give Jackson State, and go ahead and give a courtesy call to Dion up at Jackson State as well. Now, it seems like the league is not. I know that this is all about football, and the question is, they're going to the SEC. The SEC got that money. They got that money over there. But I know everybody's talking about football and the possible pod system and the 7 teams or how many games are going to play in the SEC. This is what I'm excited about for SEC as far as the SEC goes. I'm excited about the other sports. Softball. Let me start with softball. So Oklahoma just won the Women's College World Series in softball. Their program now going to the SEC. You got to deal with LSU. You got to deal with Florida. You have to deal with Georgia softball. You have to deal with Arkansas, Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee. The baseball side of everything. Texas is a historical baseball. Is really good with baseball. You're dealing with LSU baseball, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. My God, pretty much the baseball side is loaded just as much as the softball side. The gymnastics, the history of Alabama, the history of Georgia in gymnastics. And then my favorite, basketball. We have 2 new coaches that by the time, at this league rights of the Big 12 is going to expire in 2025, and Oklahoma and Texas is saying that they're not renewing their rights. But I got a feeling that they're going to be in the SEC by 2022. So pretty much that'll be the second year for men's basketball coach Chris Beard at Texas, and the second year for can't think of the Oklahoma coach's name right now. He came from Loyola Marymount. But this is the second year. They'll be in their second year. Porter Mosley is his name, the coach at Oklahoma. But I'm excited about men's and women's basketball. But on the men's side, come on now. Oklahoma basketball. Chris Beard about to take Texas to a different level. Well, we're gonna find out. They ain't been right since. We're gonna see what Chris Beard do. But I think Chris Beard has proven himself. He did very well at Texas. So we're gonna have to see what he does. LSU, Arkansas, the run that they made to the Elite Eight. What's the coach's name at Alabama? I know his wife's name is Eric Musselman. Very underrated coach. Very underrated coach at Arkansas. They went to the Elite Eight. You have Alabama, Oates. Oates came from Buffalo and has brought that program to a different level at Alabama. You got Bruce Pearl at Auburn. You have Rick Barnes at Tennessee. You have Mississippi State, Ben Howland over there. You have the Florida board. You have Florida, Coach White, Mike White at Florida. You have Mizzou. I mean, you have several. You have Buzz Peterson at Texas A&M. Bruh, this basketball wise for the SEC is reminds me of the Big East Conference back in the day. You want to talk about ACC, a history for basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, the SEC men's side of basketball is going to be through the roof. Oh, I forgot. You got Vanderbilt and Jerry Stackhouse. So when you talk about night in and night out, you have to bring your game. And oh, I forgot about South Carolina and Frank Martin. We'll see what happens with that. But men's basketball, you have to bring your A game every night. There is no off night in men's college basketball. Same way in the women's side as well. Texas, if I'm not mistaken, the Texas women made a run to the Elite Eight this year. You have that group, and that coach who's Texas used to be at Mississippi State. He was the women's head coach there and went to Texas. That's going to be an intriguing rivalry. You have the Rocky Top Tennessee, the Lady Vols still. You have LSU now because the coach from Baylor left Baylor and went to LSU. I can't think of her name right now. Y'all slipped my mind. I'm recording this thing kind of late right now. But you have the LSU basketball is going to be on the rise. You got Arkansas women's basketball. You have South Carolina with Don Staley. Man, SEC up and down is about to go to another level in sports. So I am excited for the SEC in that aspect of sports. I will come back and do my recommendation, my different options of what I see them for divisions for football and pods. I'll break down those scenarios for you. But as of right now, I'm excited for the SEC. I'm sad to see Texas and OU go because I feel like I've grown up with those particular teams my whole life. I've grown up with them. I've watched them. I've watched the championship games. I've watched the Vince Youngs. I've watched the Sam Bradfords. I've watched the great basketball players that have come to the Sprint Center in Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament. Watched them on TV. Watched the great coaches. I've watched the Eddie Suttons and the Roy Williams and the Bill Selfs of the world and the Bob Huggins and we can go down the list and back to the great players. You had the Paul Pierce, the Rafe LaFrance of the world. You had the Blake Griffins. You had all this. This is rich history that if the Big 12 does not make a play on some of these other schools, then this league is out. There won't be a Big 12 anymore. So I am sad on that part, but I am excited about the competition. And with that being said, the competition and the schools are getting paid. And check this out. I found this out the other day. For the pandemic, the SEC gave their 14 teams $23 million just for the pandemic. $23 million. So with that being said, I'm going to close out with this. If the schools is getting paid, the athletic departments is funding the entire other school, it shouldn't be no problem with this name, image, and likeness. Name, image, and likeness should not be no issue with the football players and all the other players getting their money from all these other, not from the schools, but it should be no problem with marketing and getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. My name is Al Hyde. That's my time. Until next time, remember God is love and disrespect your senses.